Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with lifestyle business mentor, life coach, author, and TEDx speaker Dai Manuel. He is a super dad, dating his wife, with a lead-by-example way of living and a contagious personality. He is on a mission to positively impact 1 million role models around the globe to lead a functionality fit life through education, encouragement, and community. He is a former partner and chief operating officer of a multi-million-dollar retail company and a sought-after lifestyle mentor and executive performance coach. His passion is to engage and challenge people in living healthy and more active lifestyles. Enjoy this interview.
Hey, Dai, it's Joe Dimino.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. How's life?
Life is full, man. Life is full. Just got back. I was away for the weekend. It was Thanksgiving up here in Canada.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I got to tell you,
it was nice.
I've accumulated such a fondness for the Canadians. I mean, I always have, but over the last year, I mean, really. Look, and this is why. You know, I have a jazz radio show, and a lot of musicians come from Toronto, and they always get grants from the government. You have socialized health care. You don't have to worry about going bankrupt or worrying about your health. You have a government that genuinely believes in the arts and health care. I find that wonderful. And when things happen, like when schools get shot up in America, the Canadians are the ones that respond. You know, you guys put a ban out a weekend. It's like, why can't we do something like that? We're seen as the most progressive, supposedly, in quotes, country in the world. Those are very basic, fundamental things to keep your populace happy and healthy.
True enough. I mean, hey, we have our challenges too, you know, but you definitely pointed out a couple of the highlights. But, man, you never know, right? Like, man, I've seen so many people in our medical system have to wait forever to get the treatment they require. And unfortunately, That's just the nature of the beast, so to speak, you know. It's sure, you don't have to pay for it on the back end, but they do collect money on the front end, but then you got to contend with the wait times, right? So it's good and bad, right? No one's got a perfect system, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, hey, you know, before we get into what you got a lot going on.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, life is full, right? Yeah. It's all good, man.
So how did you survive it, and how did that process change you now that we're kind of reemerging and coming out of it?
You know, for me, there was a medical complication. I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease, I guess it'd be almost 10 years ago now, and so it sort of put me on a new path just as it relates to life, you know, especially my professional life, but more than that, my personal life. And you start to look at things a little bit differently when you have a significant health scare. And it was the first time that I myself had sort of navigated anything like that personally. And as such, you know, sort of navigating that for the first couple of years because they were just trying to figure out what's going on with my immune system. Eventually, you know, 3 bone marrow biopsies later and a bunch of other tests, they've narrowed it to be confident enough that it looks like and it behaves like autoimmune neutropenia. And just to jump right to the point, it basically means, you know, if my hematologist had it her way, I would have lived in a bubble the last couple of years during the pandemic. Now, that's not very conducive to living a healthy, active, and happy life. And as such, I just was overly cautious, being that I have no line of defense against viral infections. And so, you know, coming out of this, it's great. Did I change sort of how I network and connect with individuals? Absolutely. I wasn't alone in that, obviously, but definitely found it very challenging. My mental health was put under a lot of duress just because I am a social individual. I like to connect with people in person in real life, not just Zoom, not just phone calls. You know, I like that face-to-face, in-person energy. And, you know, basically went without that for about 2 years, like a lot of us did. And now that we're coming out of it, I'm feeling a lot better, but I'll tell you, I had my fair share of challenges.
Oh, yeah, I get that for sure. So let's kind of boil down what you do for a living. And, you know, I see it on paper, but in reality, let's do this. We're going to transport you now to the front of a classroom in front of third graders at a career day, and a kid looks up at you and says, what do you do for a living, and why are you qualified to do it? How would you answer that child?
I love the question, Joe. I think it's so good, so well put. For me, I'm going to be honest with you. I've struggled with dumbing down what it is that I do and how I help people, because I've gone through some significant shifts, especially the last 7 years. I left a career of 17 years, and during that sort of transition period, there's a lot of questions, not so many answers, and but it's okay. We were exploring, and I was doing a lot of introspection while also sort of reevaluating what it is that I truly love to do the most. And if I was to dumb it down and to really try to communicate that clearly to a grade 3 class, I think the easiest way to describe it would be I support people where they're at, and I help them navigate change, big, small, and everything in between, and with an emphasis on health, fitness, nutrition, and positive thinking. And so that would be it in a nutshell, a 10,000-foot view. Obviously, you can get into the weeds, but I think that'd be the simplest way to explain it to a grade 3er and just say, hey, have you experienced some big changes in your life? And I'm sure for them it would be like changing their underwear every other day, right? It would be a big change, but still, it's change nonetheless, and I help people navigate that.
So your business has to have picked up since COVID slowed down. It would seem like that would be the ideal business model, huh?
It certainly, the first few months were kind of challenging because also a part of my business, I don't market myself as such, but I do a fair bit of business coaching and mentorship just based on people that know my background and what I've done. And as a result, I had a number of we'll call them health entrepreneurs, because they were people that specialize in health and wellness industries, being that that's what I've played in the last 28 years. And it's what I'm most comfortable supporting people is those types of businesses based on my experience. But long and short of it all, they navigated some pretty big changes for themselves. And as such, I saw that part of my business get challenged quite drastically during the first 3 months of the pandemic. I saw a lot of people panic and stop coaching, stop mentorship. And, those fear-based decisions were rather rash. But it definitely put a big question mark for myself. I started questioning, what am I doing and how am I doing it? And after we got through that, I'd say it was about 6 months into the pandemic, I had adapted and shifted a couple things, more specifically how I was connecting with people and offering some additional support there, especially more as passion projects. Like my men's groups, we really noticed an uptick in attendance as we navigated to Zoom versus, our in-person gatherings. And we started seeing a lot of different types of individuals showing up based on that. And those conversations that I was kind of like a fly on the wall, just hearing guys share what's alive and real for them during that pandemic. And, we had entrepreneurs, we had self-employed individuals, professionals, and everything in between. And it just made me realize that we're all dealing with the exact same challenges. Exact same. And when we start opening up about it and talking about what we're navigating, especially as challenging as it may be, you start to realize, I'm not alone in this. There's actually other people out there. And so this natural collaboration started to emerge, this idea of supporting each other and helping ourselves navigate these challenges. And as such, it made it a lot less intimidating, and it sort of revitalized, I found myself, but also some of the people I was connecting with, because all of a sudden it was like, okay, you know what? Excuse me, Joe. No matter what the challenge may be, we're here together. We're navigating this together. And when you're alone and suffering and navigating these big question marks that we've all been navigating and experiencing the last couple of years, it's daunting, on the best of days. And just having that quick conversation or sharing a WhatsApp message with somebody that's also going through something similar, it's amazing at how much pressure that relieves. So we can at least get back to clarity and doing the things that we know will help us move forward and sort of progress through that challenge. And so I found that was a big thing for myself and some of the people I was connecting with. And the business bounced back rather quickly. By that first fall of 2020, I noticed a significant uptick to the point by the time 2021 started, I actually surpassed my pre-pandemic revenue. So I noticed that the pivots had definitely made sense, and how I navigated those, the people I was connecting with resonated with it. So, I know not everyone has a similar story, but I've been finding that a fair bit of people have. They changed. They were forced to do some big changes, and actually a lot of businesses I found that really embrace this process. They've come out much more on top of things. That natural resiliency, both as the person but also as the business, I mean, they were allowed to exercise it. And I'm sure you've seen this, especially in the arts. I've noticed, I mean, there's been some pretty amazing creative people doing things very much outside of the box. And I think that's awesome, you know, that these creatives do realize they can continue to stay creative, but maybe doing it differently. And that's fun, right? It's fun to try new things and to connect with new audiences. And, you know, it's not always easy, but it sure is worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. So when you were a kid, what did you have a dream that you wanted to become when you grew up?
Well, you know, to be honest, I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be a veterinary get into veterinary medicine. I loved animals, but as I approached, you know, university, and I started in first year university in the sciences with the intentions of pursuing that career path, I realized I love animals, but not enough to dedicate my life to them. And to be fair, and I know a lot of people probably resonate with this, is those decisions were initially made because I believe that's what my dad wanted, you know, and my father was a vet, so, you know, nepotism at its finest, right? He's got a successful practice, and so there's that attraction that, oh, okay, great, I don't have to start from scratch, I've got a place I can plug and play into, get to work with my dad, but I thought it would make him proud of me, and you know, without getting into the complexities of our relationship, we weren't always the closest, and we didn't have a very deep relationship. After he separated from my mom when I was about 9, 10 years old, we didn't see him too often because he was someone that worked a great deal, and he still continued to provide for our family, even though, you know, divorced. So he was a great man, but professionally, he was very strong, but then when it came to the personal interactions, especially with his sons, me in particular, it was strained, and I didn't make things easy for him either. You know, I was kind of a challenging kid, but you know, after that first year at university, it was amazing. I had to sit down with my dad, and I was not doing well academically. I was not enjoying it. I was barely showing up to classes, to the point the dean put me on probation, academic probation. And I remember sitting down with my dad and telling him, you know, like, what's going on. And I was like, you know, I don't really love this. I don't see myself doing this. And he's like, well, why are you doing it? Why don't you just change majors, go into something that you like? And I'm like, really? That's okay? You know, like, I was like, geez, Dad, why couldn't we have this conversation a year ago? I would have, one, saved you some money and saved myself a whole lot of heartache and grief. But, you know, we didn't have that open relationship at that point. So sharing that was really challenging. You know, now as a father of 2 teen girls, 17 and 19-year-olds, I definitely have a different appreciation for what my dad must have been going through, you know. And but, you know, hindsight is to say, I thought it was 2020.
So in your capacity in your life right now, you get the chance to be a mentor, somebody that people look up to. Who would you consider maybe a hero or a mentor for you in your life?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess I could qualify this in 2 different ways. I mean, there's that in real life, you know, there's those individuals that I've actually had the opportunity and the privilege to meet and connect with and converse with in real time. But then there's also a lot of those mentors and mentorship that I've received indirectly from a lot of amazing individuals, you know, whether it be watching a great TED Talk and then reading somebody's book and then, you know, going down that. Like one book in particular that's been instrumental over the last 5 years for me has been Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. And I mean, this was written back in the 50s, one man's account of what he navigated going through, you know, various degrees of persecution through the variety of Nazi camps, you know, including Auschwitz. And yet he came out of this, survived it, being the only family member and close family member to have survived it. And as a psychologist, he was able to create this amazing body of work and research based on this traumatic, and to be fair, for most people, they wouldn't be able to come out of that and have a positive outlook on life still. And yet that's what he did. And he not only documented his experience, but also created an entire system called logotherapy. And you know, that for me in the last 5 years has just been instrumental. And so, yeah, Dr. Viktor Frankl, he passed a long time ago. Is he a direct mentor? No, but indirectly, he's been a big influence on me. And so that's just one example. And then in real life, I've been really fortunate. You know, these men's groups that I've been participating in the last 4 years, almost 5 years now, I've met some just amazing individuals. And they're not people of notoriety. They're not people that are got alphabet soup after the name, you know, numbers of doctorates and other degrees. Like, they're just everyday individuals that are trying to be their best version. They admit their mistakes, they own them, and they try to move past them and not make them again. And I think seeing that from just everybody that we're like, for me, that just seems much more accessible. You know what I mean? Like, to see that role modeling and mentorship in action from everyday individuals, that's the stuff that actually impacts me the most, because I then take away what I'm observing and hearing and listening to, and I apply it to my own life. And, you know, sometimes with success, sometimes not, but hey, it's a work in progress, right? So those are just a couple examples of where mentorship's been really powerful in my life.
So let's extend that question, and if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now, spend a little time with them, who would it be?
You know, I would absolutely be fascinated to you know, sit down with either Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. I just think those individuals look at the world so differently than the majority of us. And I just think it would be really interesting to hear their thoughts and to just pick their brain on certain things, but even like just regular life, like parenthood. What's it mean to be a father? You know, what's it mean to be a great man? Like, ask those kind of questions, right? Like, more than just the business type questions that they often entertain, but, you know, really like the life questions. I would absolutely love to hear their insights and opinions as well as beliefs around that. I think that'd be just so cool.
So if you have a dream tonight and you run into the version of you at, like, say, 20 years old, and you could give that version a piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've gained over the years, and this isn't about regret, it's about dispensing just what you've learned over all of your years, what advice would you give your younger version?
You know, quit beating yourself up so darn much. I mean, it's amazing how critical we can be of ourselves. And I know as my 20-year-old something, I was so focused on chasing perfection that it often created a lot of mental and emotional challenges for me. In particular, you know, I've dealt with social anxiety most of my life and some other mental health challenges. And in my 20s, it got really bad, but I was highly functioning. I also achieved some amazing successes professionally in my 20s and 30s. But on the flip side, I was also managing my mental health not in a healthy way. You know, as much as I was committed to fitness and my nutrition, you know, when it came to coping with some of the anxiety and depression, it was alcohol. I went to alcohol. It became sort of that scapegoat. And I think, you know, if I could go back to my 20-year-old self, it's like, man, you are enough as you are. You know, you got nothing to prove. And, you know, there are healthier ways to manage your mental health, but you got to start talking about it. And I think that is the biggest piece that I'd like to share with myself, you know, that 25 years ago is like, just start talking about it, you know, start connecting with other people to share in these conversations. Because when I realized I'm not so darn alone and there's other people that are navigating these challenges and obstacles as well, it changed my whole perspective on things, you know, it really did. And so that would be the piece I'd love to, you know, if given the opportunity, I'd go back and say it. But now it's funny because my kids are closer to 20 than I'll ever be. And sharing these insights with them is very much some of the conversation we see around the dinner table. So, you know, it's very evident that you've lived a very full life. And I'm curious, at the end of the proverbial day when you lean back, what are you the proudest of? What brings a smile to your face? Well, besides my kids, I would also say, you know, the fact that my wife and I have been dating successfully for almost 23 years. Now, you know, we've had a fair share of challenges as well, and I do select my language very carefully with the intentionality there. You know, I am dating my wife, and it was about 10 years ago I really started to qualify things that way. And you know, there's power in intention of language. And I am really happy about the shift I made with how I not only talk to myself, but also describe and speak to my family values. That's been a part that, you know, when it's not in alignment, it's amazing how hard life feels. But when I'm in alignment with my family values and I'm, you know, using that filter to say yes and no to things that I could easily fill my days with, if it's not in alignment with my family and my family values and some of my family aspirations, it's become a very quick no. And since implementing that quick no, man, it's eliminated a lot of anxiety and some of that overwhelm for me, but it's also made the work that I do and personal things that I do much more fulfilling. So I think that would be the short answer on that one. So of all of the clients that you've had and all of the business dealings that you've had, what's been the best fan letter? Best response from someone based on what you've done for them? Oh, that's pretty cool. Thanks for asking that, Joe. You know, being someone that suffered, and, you know, I use the term suffering loosely, but, you know, in hindsight, it felt like I was suffering. But from the age of about 10 to 15, I was what doctors would say is morbidly obese. I had a BMI of over 40, and a lot of people really struggle to see that, and knowing the people that know me now, right, and have known me as an adult and as someone that's very dedicated to his health. But I didn't come from that naturally. I came actually from the opposite end of that spectrum, and navigating that change for myself, and it didn't happen overnight. It was a 2-year journey to release that weight and to develop a new lifestyle by the time I was 17. I've helped some amazing people navigate that kind of challenge, especially obesity, and to see their zest for life when all of a sudden it goes from I can't to now I can, I will, and I get to. And that subtle psychological shift, and you see that manifest in someone's life when they've gone through those physical and mental changes, I'll tell you that is the most rewarding piece of what I do. And I absolutely love it. I truly love it. That's what motivates me. It's the carrot, right? And it's like to see those people really realize that light bulb go on above their head, like, my gosh, I did this. This is my life. And this can continue to be my life. And that belief in themselves that they weren't able to see before and they now see it. And that is just like, oh, man, it's just, even right now, I'm getting all excited telling it to you, So, yeah, that would be it.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your clients. Everyone that knows you has a certain light they see you in, but you live your life. You lead it. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Wow, man, you ask great questions, Joe. I just want to say that.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love them. I mean, they make you think, and I know my perception of myself has changed a lot, especially when I exited out of my last business after 17 years. And these last 7 years have been a lot of this rediscovery and getting much more clarity on what do I want the rest of life to look like, and I know that my perspective of myself has changed drastically. And in certain situations, especially professionally, it's been a whole 180 because I used to be so attached to what it was that I did that was a big part of my identity. And so leaving that career, oh, man, it was like, who am I now? Like I was this guy. I was the entrepreneur. I was this guy in the fitness equipment space here in Canada, especially. And I was known for that. And then you step away from that and it's like, oh, man, who am I now? And so I've been working through that these last 7 years. And I like to think I'm a super dad. I'm also someone that's highly respectful of others' needs. And I can see the potential in others that they can't see in themselves. But more importantly, I'm someone that's empathetic, patient, and operates with high integrity. And that would be a way that I would sort of describe myself now, if given the opportunity, like with your question. And I'm sure there's a lot more depth than that, but that's what comes front of mind right away.
Absolutely. So, Dai, if anyone out there listening wants to know more about you, your services, what you do, anything related to your world, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, Joe, like you, I love having conversations, and I'm quite active on a few of the social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, to be precise. I'm very active on those, and I know the first hurdle is learning how to spell my name. But if people can spell my name, Dai, D-A-I, and then Manuel, M-A-N-U-E-L, you'll be pleasantly surprised to see that I've got just my name on every social platform, including my own website, DaiManuel.com. And any of those places you find me, send me a message. We can have a conversation. And, that's how people get to know each other. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. It's how we evolve collectively. So I'm always open for a great conversation. And, Joe, I just want to say thank you to you for putting these types of conversations out to the world so all of us can be that fly on the wall and absorb through these wonderful questions that you've not only cultivated but curated. And man, I'm just this has actually been one of the best conversations I've had on a podcast ever. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh man, that's wonderful. Thank you. No, what you're doing, you immediately leaped out as somebody that is out there doing wonderful work and getting very engaged in it. And I'm starting to believe that this whole notion of podcasting is the best way for all of us to kind of unite together and get over the differences and just feel that, there's empathy we need to have, there's understanding. And we really, like you said, it's like, I love the answer about, just the common person that's just reflective on who they are and able to either correct that and become stronger is very mighty. I mean, because there's all of us that are out here, a lot of us out here trying to do that. So I love that.
Agreed.
This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for being so open and forthright. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, and music around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.